class of 73. I'm a White Mountain Apache and part St. Carlos. Well, I'm half St. Carlos. My dad was St. Carlos. Uh, I graduated in 1973. And I joined the Army in 1974, really, delayed entry program. My brother was ahead of me and he joined the parachuting unit, the 82nd Airborne. And I wanted to go airborne too, so I joined the 1st Ranger Battalion out of Fort Stewart, Georgia. I went there in 1975. Went to jump school there. Then I went to a Ranger unit in Savannah, Georgia. Really, the place was called Fort Stewart, Georgia. And that's where I served initially. But after I got out, I went back in. I went through the ROTC program in Arizona State. I used to say that's where God went. Arizona State. I graduated from Arizona State twice in 1982 and 1984. I got my commission in 1982. Became a second lieutenant in the Army. I got the same bars the West Pointers do. I got the same bars. But the Army is pretty, there's a lot of opportunities in the Army. I had a chance to go to flight school. I went to airborne school. It's for me, it was easy. Nothing hard about it. And I didn't experience any racism. The Army was good. In the Ranger Battalion, there was only 600 guys. We were all, close with each other. There was no racism there. All in all, I never experienced any racism in the Army. The Army's been good to me. But I could have done everything I wanted to do. I made captain during Desert Storm. Got promoted. Then after that, I did more time as a transportation officer out at Sholo. That was a good tour of duty. But all in all, I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to be a warrant officer, fly helicopters. Yeah, I came so close. I passed the ASVAB test and entrance to the Army. Yeah. Good?
Nice, man. That's excellent.
Yeah, okay.
So, Matt, we're trying to reach the next generation. So, what do you appreciate about America after your service in the military?
After or?
Before or after? I mean, it's just, what do you appreciate about the United States after, in regards to your military service?
Yeah, America's been my mama. It provided everything, even the Army, all the opportunities were there. It was there. There's nothing hard about it. All you need to do was just put in your time. It was there. The Army is pretty good, deal for young people. They could do anything they want to do. Become warrant officers, fly helicopters, go to the Halo school, go to Ranger school, Special Forces. Any school they want to do, it's there. Even logistics schools, any schooling, it's there. The opportunities are there. My son just got out of Korea. He did Air Force, and he had a lot of good opportunities. Got a good job now. And my son's name is Jaguar knows that he's Air Force all the way. Yeah, he just got out, did 5 years Air Force, 3 in Korea, place called Osan. Yeah. And then I'm hoping that my granddaughters go into the military, Talia Lanier and Autumn Lanier. They're both in high school right now. One's going to graduate. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, what would you say to this next generation then?
Next generation?
Yeah.
As my grandma used to say in Apache, he would say, true, you can be anything you want to be. He would touch me on the forehead.
Let me make sure that's still good. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
My grandmother would say, grandson, you can do anything you want to be. You're going to be a star. That's what she told me. And it always stuck in my head. I could do anything. So as to the young kids that are growing up now, they can do anything they want to be. Nothing's hard. There's the schooling's not hard. Not hard. So whatever opportunities you want to go for it. The military is a good way for me. It's a ticket to all the knowledge that's there. Even in warfare, like my grandpa Geronimo, his tactics are studied at West Point. Yeah. Pretty cool. I enjoyed the Army. Wish I did more time. Yeah. Wish I was young again. Yeah. It's cool.
Good. Anything else you want to say, Matt?
I'd like to thank what was your name, Mr.?
Well, you could just thank Blue Ridge School District.
Okay, I'd like to thank Blue Ridge School District for giving my granddaughters the opportunity to go there. Autumn is she plays football. I think about a month and a half ago she made a touchdown. Yeah. Whatever you want to do, you pursue it. You can do it. Anything, all the opportunities are there. Go for it.
Nice. Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I think that's wonderful. Let's check it. All right.
Hello, my name is Dennis Faden. I am the current commander of the American Legion Post 60, Oliver de Clay Post out of White River, Arizona. I am a Army veteran. I'm a Cold War veteran. I served during the times between Vietnam and the current wars that are going on. I came to this beautiful mountain area thinking that Arizona was nothing but a flat desert. And I'm surprised to find that there's mountains here, and I love this place. It's an awesome place. My wife is from here, so she brought me here, and I grew to love it, and I don't plan on moving away for any particular reason so far. But I met my wife in the Army as well. She is a veteran. Like I said, I'm the Cold War veteran. I served over in Schweinfurt, Germany during 1981 to 83, back when the wall, the German wall was still standing there. And it actually came down, they tore it down right after I left. So it was pretty awesome to hear about that wall coming down, the separation of Germany. But I served in the 3rd Infantry Division, the 1st and 10th Field Artillery. I was a cannon fire direction specialist. I was the one that told the guns, the big guns, where to shoot. There was a forward observer which told me where the enemy was, and I directed the guns to land the rounds where it was. It was peacetime, so the enemy was vehicles that are parked in the middle of an impact area, so we can have target practice blowing them up. It was a fun job. I enjoyed it very much. I served in the military for 16 years in several different jobs. Cannon fire direction specialist was, cannon firing was my love. I loved it to this day. I also was a motor messenger, something like Pony Express, but in vehicles. We drive around delivering messages to different units. I also was a tropospheric communication. That's a radio man that sends messages that bounce off the atmosphere to another site. So the jobs I've had were very interesting, very enjoyable. Here, serving the people as the commander of the post, as the service officer as well, I helped many veterans get their benefits, increase their medical benefits as well as their pension, so that they would have a better way of life. Veterans have gone out and served this country in many different places, many different wars, and I'm proud to have called every single one of them my brothers and sisters. I come from a long history of veterans, so I understand the veteran life better than a lot of other people. I'm a veteran. My wife's a veteran. My father-in-law was a veteran as well, Army. My father was a Navy veteran during Vietnam, and he served 3 tours in Vietnam. My grandfather was a Marine during World War II. He was one of the people that did land on Iwo Jima. My great-grandfather was commander of a ship in the Navy during World War I. And I do know that my history goes further back in the military, but I really don't know them. And my future was my son. I have 4 children, my son and 3 daughters. My son, my middle daughter, and my baby has served over in Iraq and Afghanistan. And my baby is still in. She's currently over in Okinawa, Japan. in the Army, working for the military, working for the Criminal Investigation Department. So her job is a very important job, and she is currently at 12 years of service. So she's doing a fine job of protecting our country as well. So thank you for your attention, and I hope my encouragement for you to join the military, to do something with your life, would be enjoyable.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question now. The kids are, one of the things they're able to do at this time of year is the Patriot Pen Essay Contest. And that question this year is, what inspires you about America, or what do you appreciate about America? Do you have any thoughts on that?
My appreciation about America, the freedom that we have. I've heard many different people talk about freedom, talking about where they're going to go with freedom. I've had the opportunity to be in different countries, Germany, Korea, Japan, and I've seen where they got freedom, but they're not as free as you would think they are. And a lot of countries have moved, a lot of people have moved to the United States for the freedom that they have. And if we don't maintain our freedom here, if we ever lose our freedom here, where are we going to go? There is no other place that has the freedom that we have here. And I've heard President Reagan talking about freedom. There is other countries with freedom, but they don't have the expanse of the freedom that we have.
Nice, good, Dennis. I mean, the only other question I've been asking everyone else is, so since you did a really nice job talking to the kids right there, by the way. So what else would you say to this generation? So this is 7th and 8th graders, 12 to 14 years old. Do you have any other things you'd like to say to this generation in regards to military service or just in general?
Well, my thought about the younger generation of being in the military is this. It is a great job, great opportunities of travel, great opportunities to get further your education as well. And the thing I tell any young person that goes into the military, stay in as long as you can. Don't be afraid to stay in. Don't be afraid to go to different countries. It is scary to go to different countries, go to different places, but don't be afraid of it in the sense that you don't ever want to go. Explore, see different places, but stay in as long as you can. Further your education while you're in the military. That's the second thing. Your education is very important. I'm personally a high school dropout that got a GED and a college degree because of the military. I furthered my education in there. Stay in as long as you can, get that education, and put money away in a savings account and don't touch it. Save it for the future. Save it for your retirement. Build it up so when you get out, you can buy that fancy car. You can buy that nice house. You can pay for whatever you want, that wonderful boat or the awesome weapons you want to buy to go out and hunt with. So enjoy it. Put money away for your future.
Nice. I think that's it. Anything else, Dennis?
That's it.
All right, I
Thank you
think
very
that was
much.
great. Let's double check it while you're here. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Colleen Traden. I am 66 years old. I've been in the United States Army. I joined when I was like 24 years old, after I went to college. And I only served 3 years during the Cold War, when there was no war. in the United States. But my MOS was 71 Lima, administrative specialist. And what I did was mostly office work, but I worked for Duarte S3 headquarters, so there was a lot of colonels, officers, and I was the only female in that unit at that time. And what I learned to work with was manual typewriter. I'm sure a lot of you don't remember that, but it's a old typewriter where you did it by hand, push to the next page and stuff like that, but you did it by hand, manually. And that's what I learned from. And when you did correspondence, paperwork, you had to do it correctly, all from top to bottom. That's the only way it'll look good, because if you had a typo, you would have to put a tape in there just to cover it up, but in the end, it don't look good. So you had to do everything correct, and you had to pass about 19 different kinds of correspondence you had to do. But that's what I started with. In the middle of my serving, that's when the computer word processors came in. So they taught us how to turn on the computer, and the rest was all up to us. So, and I went to school at Altrese, and Mr. Pena was our typing. So he kind of gave us, I guess, what to expect in the future. So I kind of knew how to format and do stuff, so made the transitioning into the word processing a little easier, because I never had any other computer typing class after high school. So, but I learned good, and I had to type all the correspondence for our officers, and we had a big colonel for our boss, and he did not like typo, and he was strict on grammar. You had to learn how to spell. A lot of these officers, for some reason, couldn't spell. And sometimes it felt like you were back at school. Because if the colonel didn't like how it's written, he would circle it. Gives it back. Do it over. So if the officers didn't know how to spell, we didn't have spell check, I guess, then. So that's what he did, and after a while, I just started correcting their work, and it's been good. Like, they gave me, it was like peacetime, I said. There was no war. So all we do was prepare, be ready, which was good, and we learned to go out in the field. I went out in the field with the guys, and we even went to Germany during the winter for training, but been all the time with the guys. And I had a master sergeant that was in charge of our little section, and he said I was the first female in his unit. And you know how men, they cuss. Because he was used to nothing but boys, he cussed it all the time. But once I came on, he said, excuse my language. He said that throughout, and finally he kind of, I guess we adjusted to each other. But he was very strict, because he was in Germany, served in Germany most of his time. So coming back here, he said it's hard, because he felt like us being in stateside was kind of lenient. Because in Germany, you have to be ready. If it happened like within the next country, next area, they have to be ready in minutes. And that's how we used to get trained. They used to do drills middle of the night. See how long it takes you to pack up and be ready to go. So we did all of that. I know it's different now. There's a lot of changes, because I do have 4 children. 3 of them serve, and they tell us what they're going through, and it's like totally different. And money-wise, what we used to get is not the same nowadays. Nowadays, they get paid a lot. So it's good. I'm glad they joined because they got to see the world, to see different areas. And they've done things that a lot of the kids locally would not be able to do. And they're able to save money. One of them even bought a house. So there's a lot of things that you can do when you're in the service. Even the VA, once you get out, can still help you. And that's what we do. I'm part of the American Legion, and we help veterans, help each other out. So there's always help too when you get back. But the only thing I remember when we were in the service was Army buddies. You had to keep each other back, have each other's back. You have an Army buddy in basic. You go through the training together, making sure they make it, making sure you both pass. PT and running, they're all still there, what we used to do. So a lot has changed, but it's still the same type of physical training. And I think it's a good experience. If you want to do not sure what you want to do, maybe just experience other areas you would like to try, or places you want to visit, you can ask for it nowadays and say, I want to go serve in Germany or in Hawaii. Places you can get what you want. Back then I wasn't like that, but my kids are doing that. My baby, which is the youngest one, served in Hawaii. Now she's in Japan. That's one thing she wanted to do. She got a scholarship after high school. She's a smart student. The Air Force wanted her, but she turned that down, and she wanted to go to school. And then she got tired a year and a half after. She says, Mom, I want to take a break. And then she joined the Army. And she got to do things that a lot of the kids locally wouldn't be able to do. She skydive, scuba dive. She's seen places. And it's because of serving in the veteran, because she joined and she got her degree. So now what she's looking forward to getting out in a couple more years and start her own business. Small business is what she has her degree in. So that's ways they can help. And my son, he was in mechanic armor. Now, after he got out, he got training in heavy duty or diesel, I think, diesel mechanic. So he works on semis. He has a big job, good job down in Phoenix. And he takes care of these semi trucks. He loves what he's doing, and it's because of the VA helping her with his schooling. So there's things that, that's available. And I think a lot of the kids should experience that. You're given a chance. If you're not sure what you want to do, that's something you can look into. But at the same time, you got to be physically fit. Because now I notice they're strict on the training, the weight. And some of the kids can't make it because of that. Just by missing 1 or 2 sit-ups, I heard they've been given a chance, but yet eventually could get out. So make sure you're physically fit. And I know local kids, we have all these areas, open areas, where you can run, walk, do all kinds of exercise. So that's a good thing. And I think kids around here would do good. And my son, when he was in, he went to Iraq. He said there was too many city boys that couldn't handle outdoor. And I know our local boys, they know how to live within our environment or outside, living outside off the land, I guess is what it's called. But that's one thing he noticed was that a lot of the young kids don't know how. They were scared. And here we live with all kinds of animals. We know how to live with them and what to do. But if they didn't know, he didn't feel like he was safe because he felt like the city boys weren't able to have his back. He had to watch out for them. And he said that was the hard part. But here, the natives, everybody, that lives here locally, we have a good place. We have a beautiful land, and we know how to use it. I think most of the kids do, because I know a lot of kids do play outside. Or they wildlife, hunting, fishing, so we know how to live off the land. So I think that's something all the kids should try if they're not sure what they want to do.
Nice.
And I hope they do that. Thank you.
All right, Carl, let's move on to one more question. I think you kind of covered it. Actually, I think you covered it. No, I do. And that's the beauty of it. So I'll go through and pull some things out and put it together. But is there anything else you feel like saying? I mean, if there's nothing else, but you actually covered my two questions that I've been asking everybody else. So.
Not really. There's a lot of benefits to it. I think that a lot of the young ones, they need to know that. So as long as it's not being recorded now.
Oh, no, it is.
But my daughter would have been good at this. My baby one she did the talk last year. And that's what she covered. We told her to cover how the Army
What
helped
it's like.
and what she's gotten out so far. And she kind of covered a lot of things.
We'll have to do
And I
that.
said she would have been good for high school, but it wasn't a high school thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Wilbert Case. I am a U.S. Army veteran. I live in McNairy, Arizona. I was born and raised in White River. I joined the Army in 1973 and served in Korea for 12 months during the first part of my career. I came back and they finished off my career in Fort Carson, Colorado as a Vulcan crewman, which is according to those people in the military, they call it the West's fastest gun in the world. But I served for 9 years in the military. My last time I got in was during Desert Storm. I got called back up to go to Desert Storm. And at that time, I didn't actually get to go to Desert Storm. On the way over, they told us that the war was over, so they turned around and they brought us back to McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey. That's next to Fort Dix, New Jersey. That's where I was at. And during that time when I was in Korea, it was cold. If you talk about cold here, it's not cold here compared to Korea. And it was, when cold, I mean the temperatures were below zero most of the time in the winter. It was like 60 below zero at times. And living in a constant hot type barracks, it didn't help any neither. You had to sleep with your blankets that they gave you, plus the sleeping bag, winter type sleeping bag, to keep yourself warm. And it was a good deal for me because I enjoyed being there, understanding the different culture that was out there. Though I couldn't speak their language, I could basically know what they wanted to do, and it was back them days. It was different compared to now, and I miss to begin with. I missed the Vietnam War at the tail end by not much. I am considered a Vietnam era veteran, but I mostly did during the peacetime over there. So it's a long journey for me. But I enjoyed every bit of my military career that I've had. I honestly wish that I had retired from the military, but I didn't do it because I had some altercations with some other people in the military that made me quit. So that's mostly what I did in the military.
Good, Wilfred. Yeah, that was perfect. Let's keep going. What I want to do next is just ask you a simple question and make sure that's going. It is. So we want to talk to the kids directly here because this is a video they're going to be watching.
Yeah.
So we want to say something around the lines. The Patriot Pen essay that's going on right now is asking the question, what do you appreciate about America? Right? And so if you were to say that in conjunction with your military service to this generation, 7th and 8th graders, what do you appreciate about America? Let's not sugarcoat it.
No.
America's not perfect,
No.
but what do you appreciate about it?
America, I appreciate about the freedom that we live here, the freedom to do things that other countries can't do. It is, you can do whatever you want, wherever, anytime you want to. Though there are laws that cannot make you do things violently, but it's the freedom to do things. And nobody has to tell you or watch you to do the things that you do, which is good for most of us here in this country. It is, like I said, it was a good country. I stood up for this country, and nobody forced me to get into this military. I volunteered to get into the military. So it is, like I said, it's the freedom to do the things that you want to do. That's here in the United States, and all the good things that happen here in the United States that I stood up for.
That's excellent. I mean, Wilfred, what else would you say? Because imagine you're talking to 300 kids right now. Because you will be, but we're doing it here. So what would you say to this generation of 300 odd kids right now?
Well, I would say that if you are not sure of how you're going to get through school, if you're going to college, if you're like thinking along the line of going to college, think the military, try the military. See, it's a lot easier to get money from the military for your GI Bill can help you go through school when you get done with your high school career and you're going your next step you want to take and you got no place to go and you want something to do exciting. Try the military. It is a great place to learn things, something that your parents will not teach you when you're out there alone, and you learn how to be alone out there and stand up on your own 2 feet as you go around in this world. And it's hard, but you have to learn to adjust to that hard way of life. And most of us native people, we have learned that part by living on the reservation, which is the hard way of life. And that's the way it is in the military. It's a hard way of life, but you have to learn to adjust to it. And speaking about the hard way of life, my life on the reservation wasn't almost as hard as it was in the military. And the military sort of like reinforced the ideas my mom and dad gave me to be tough, strong, and learn how to do things that you're supposed to be doing without being told. And that's the way it is in the military too. You have to understand what the leadership wants you to do. You have to do it, and if you don't do it, you get in trouble. Just like when you're home, you don't do the things that your parents tell you to do. You get in trouble, and that's the way it is in the military. So in the military, when I joined up, they told me, the drill sergeant told me that I'm your mother, your father, and your aunties, your brothers and sisters, whatever. It is true. It is true that you have a second family in the military, and that what helped me, and I learned how to accept the things that are good and bad, and it's a good way to succeed in life, I guess. But I made a mistake, and I ended up the way, I don't know if I could say that or not, but it is what it is, and I've done it, and I did it for 9 years, and I enjoyed every bit of it. And there are times I wish I could go back, but I'm getting too old for it now. But it is, like I said, it's a rough life, but we all have to do some part of our lives that we have to put something into it ourselves to get better acquainted with life as it is. Mm-hmm.
I really liked a couple of things you said there, Wilford. That was excellent. So you live in White River, is that right?
I live in McNairy.
McNairy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my son and my grandkids are all going to Blue Ridge.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So
Good. Are they in the high school or junior?
the granddaughter, my grandsons and my granddaughter are all in high school now.
Here, we'll cut that. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Good morning. My name is Douglas Ray Hickson. I'm a guest at the junior high school doing a project on veterans. I'm a member of the Veterans Post 9907 of the VFW. And thought we'd come in here and chat a little bit about my career and what I did and how I do it. We've lived in Show Low about 20 years, at least 9 to 10 months a year. Quite enjoy it up here, and hopefully I'll set a little history that you haven't heard before.
Okay, why don't you tell us which branch of the service you're in and how long you served, even including reserve time?
Okay, that's perfect. Yes, U.S. Army. I enlisted in the Utah National Guard in 1963 when I was still in high school. Went to basic training the day after I graduated, then went for advanced training. I eventually transferred over to the Green Berets, 19th Special Forces in Utah. Went to jump school, parachute school, my wing. Then I went to jump master school. And then they opened up flight school, warrant officer helicopter flight school for people with a high school diploma. This was in '69. So I applied and was accepted and went to flight school in 1969, graduated in February of '70. Down in Mineral Wells, Texas. Fort Walters was the initial program. It's not there anymore. Then I went to Savannah, Georgia for advanced training in flying Hueys, and was high enough in my class at graduation. I got to select an attack helicopter. I flew G model Cobras for 15 of my 25 years in uniform. And brought that primarily research and development, test and evaluation flying at Yuma Proving Grounds, Fort Ord, California. Spent 3 years at Fort Lewis, Washington, and then lots of schooling at Fort Rucker, Alabama. And then I was in Korea for 2 years, 2 separate years, 10 years apart, 72 and 82. Then I got picked as an acceptance test pilot at the factory in Mesa, Arizona, where Hughes Helicopters building the A model Apache, touted as the most advanced attack helicopter in the free world. and just about every country has Apaches, and they're up to an E model now. I didn't fly the D, the longbow. I did the simulation in it. So I spent a year in Saudi Arabia when they bought 12 Apaches. I was their senior test pilot in Saudi Arabia, and came back to work for Boeing for another total of 13 years between McDonnell Douglas and Boeing. And then I retired from there early, got a substitute teaching certificate, and did that till the VA determined my disabilities were equal to 100%, so I couldn't work. I volunteered at the elementary school in Apache Junction for 17 years, and COVID just sort of ran me out of business. So now I'm just enjoying gardening and playing around the house, bothering the wife.
Nice. Okay. One of the things so the kids are involved in Patriots Pen this year. It's an essay contest. Right. Have you heard of that? And so some of the kids do it. They don't have to do it, but some do. And the question this year is, what inspires you about America?
Oh,
And so, same question to you, basically, since
Yeah.
you've served and put yourself out there. What are your feelings about how are you inspired by America?
that's a fairly simple question, just because of freedoms. We have the freedoms. Like I said, I've been to Saudi Arabia for a year, not a free place. Korea, very troubled place. Lots of threats. The North Koreans are looking down on us, and we don't have that issue here in the States. The freedoms we enjoy, and I'm afraid take for granted. If you haven't left the States, you just don't realize how free we are. And I thoroughly enjoyed my 25 years in support and flying. Vietnam was different. I came back, we couldn't wear uniforms and stuff. We were labeled baby killers and terrible people, but I was medevac back. I was with my unit in Vietnam for 37 days, and I got shot down twice in the same week, and my second crash broke my back, so they medevaced me out. And that was in 1970. Just thoroughly enjoyed the job. I loved the aircraft. I was in Northern I Corps up on the DMZ, Camp Evans. We supported the 5th Mech and anybody else who needed a gunship. Like I said, there was a lot of excitement. There's a few missions you can just never forget. A long-range reconnaissance patrol was in contact with a company-size element and ran across the DMZ, and we're going to get wiped out. And we got a call to back up a Huey, a UH-1H model, was going in to evacuate these, extract them. But they had to take up cover in a bomb crater. They put Claymore mines all around the tops of it, and we're talking to command and control at about 9,000 feet, directing the Huey, who was flying as fast as he could go, as low as he could go, probably 50 feet or less, just missing bomb craters. The people on the ground were surrounded, and they were whispering that where they were coming from and where the gun support would be needed and the best way for the Huey to come in. And it's funny, you're at 5,000 feet and you start whispering back, okay. They didn't really hear us. Anyway, the command and control directed the Huey, who couldn't see the bomb crater they were in, but directed him in and told him, you're about a football field, flare, and set it down. As he flared, they blew the Claymore mines, stopped some of the suppressive fire. We were to roll in at that point and start putting rockets and minigun underneath his tail, because he did a pedal turn and came out the same way he went in. And we got all the guys out, and nobody got hit. The adrenaline was flowing on those kind of missions where you really work right with the people rather than just shoot a suppressive fire on a tree line or something like that. But that was an exciting mission. I enjoyed that one. Only did it once.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the TOAD thing, the
Okay.
missile system.
You bet.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah, in 1972, I was flying out of Fort Ord, flying for Combat Development Experimentation Command. Got a call to go pick up 2 B model Hueys at Hughes Helicopters in Culver City, California. I and another pilot flew down commercial and got over there and got a check ride from their pilots, got current and flew it back up to Fort Ord. Now this B model was made, Hughes got 2 of them and put the XM-26 TOW missile, TOW, stands for Tubular Launched Optically Tracked Wire Guided. Now this isn't the only wire guided missile. There was one before this one called the SS-11, but it wasn't weapons guided. It was just the guy was leaning out the window looking, hoping he could hit, and it was very unsuccessful. We had in the left chin bubble was a periscopic sight that was dual gyro stabilized, where he put the crosshairs. The infrared source on the back of the missile was bore-sighted to the crosshairs, and where he put that, the missile would come across, find its sight, come back again, find its sight, and then lock into center line. We were at Fort Lewis, Washington, doing intervisibility experiments. We'd never seen these rocket pods, missile pods. We were just using the, can you see me because I can see you? We're talking to the armor and in the European environment like the woods. So we got a call that they go down to the Tactical Operations Center for they needed volunteers. They couldn't tell us where or what we were going to do, but we had to give them the aircraft. So they took the aircraft over to McChord Air Force Base and stripped them down and put them on board. And we jumped on the 141, and next thing you know, we're landing in Vietnam. They put the aircraft together again, got the test flights out of the way, tracked and balanced, and put the weapon systems on. Then we relocated from Saigon up to Pleiku in the Central Highlands. The armor threat for the North Vietnamese had really picked up. The rockets for the Cobra shoot were just bouncing off if they could hit them. So we cranked up and went out on an experiment for 90 days to see if this missile system, because the Germans weren't interested in at the time, they'd just been sitting at Hughes rusting. So we were the first people to ever shoot the TOW missile off a helicopter. There were 3 aircraft commanders, I was one, 3 co-pilot gunners, and 2 crew chiefs. It was a team effort. I had, as a pilot in command, had to get the aircraft in constraints, pitch, roll, and yaw, while the gunner had to maintain a little joystick to keep his crosshairs on the tank or the target, whatever it was. Like I say, we were doing an experiment, so we shot everything in the free fire zone that command and control had let us. We practiced on artillery pieces that the South Vietnamese had just left on fire bases, completely operational. So we shot some howitzers, some trucks, a bridge, and then we got a call that the armor's on the move. I was first up, so I loaded up with 3 TOW. The poor aircraft was real old. It couldn't handle more than 3. It was gross weight. Went up to Firebase Ben Het. The T-54 Russian tank had pulled into the gate and blown it apart and was going through when somebody came in with a shoulder-launched weapon and hit this tank track, which disabled the tank. He couldn't go forward or backward, but he could stay there and just shoot. And he was doing some damage to the bunkers. The clouds were all puffy and popcorn, and I came in at 1,000 feet, and they opened up on me. So I climbed up through the puffy clouds and got around and reoriented myself, and the gunner and I locked onto that tank. And when it blows a 4-inch hole right in the turret. It would be a shape charge, very, very devastating, about 3,000 meters. And the men on the ground were whistling and screaming and yahooing, and you had going with a smile on that one. But we took every target of opportunity we could. I shot 9 Russian tanks, T-54, 55s, and a light amphibious tank at PT-76. We had, in the city of Khartoum was a Turkey shirt. We're the only ones allowed to fly inside because the Vietnamese Air Force were trying to drop big bombs, and that it was a city. And the tanks would pull in next to a building or go right into a garage. We could do the damage to the tank without any collateral damage. It's that precise of a weapon. So and they had a water tower. The French had built in the city of Khartoum, about 150 feet, I imagine. And the North Vietnamese had hiked up there, somehow got to the top of that and set up a machine gun nest, and nobody could get him down. He pinned everybody down, so we got a call to go take that cupola. They had a little building on top of that he was hidden in a cement structure, and we knocked the top right off his hideout. I called it the South Vietnamese Airborne School because it cleared him out. 3 or 4 days later, got a call that another machine gun nest on top. Took it out that time too, and then they asked us to try to blow up, knock it over. They put tow missiles on every leg, and all they did was punch through the concrete. Steel reinforced, the French built it. It's still standing today, I bet you, but it's full of holes. They even put a howitzer underneath it and tried to shoot up through it. But that was an extremely successful experiment, and it later was the forerunner of the tow missile being on all attack helicopters and ground vehicles today. I mean, they've come a long way. It's got a longer range now on the wire. Because anytime you have to keep your eye on the target, and I can maneuver a little bit, but the wire, it's pretty delicate, so it's better to fire and forget like we have on the Hellfire. On the Apache, it was laser guided, so there's nothing attached to the helicopter. But that was a good experiment. That was in 1972. I would try to provide some photos of the damage that we did to tanks in the water tower I talked about. We had a command and control captain who had been in country a full year, and he called us one day. He says, "Put your sight on that island in the river, Buchan River." And my gunner Les he says, "That's a camouflage tank." They had, I guess, broken down in the middle of a stream, but sandbagged the water away from the tank and put trees and bushes on it. So we rolled around and got it lined up and shot it. And it didn't burst into flames, and the commander asked us to put another one on the other side. As soon as we did, it exploded. So it was loaded and ready to go. So we took every target of opportunity and thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. Came back and we had gun camera films. Very 16 millimeter, very grainy, very hard to see anything, but I put together a 30-minute briefing, and myself and Scott Fenwick, the other aircraft commander, went around to all the major service schools. I briefed the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the tank in the Pentagon. They were very interested in why there was no evasive action, what were our rules of engagement, and they mostly wanted to see the film of the shots. The people in the armor school at Fort Knox weren't too happy. Their families were in the briefing, and she came in and was talking to a captain outside, and she says, "If he can do that to Russian tanks, somebody can do that to you. Get out of armor." Of course, he wouldn't, I'm sure. But yeah, she thought we were magic. So.
This is good. Let's take a break and go to one other area. So remember, there's going to be about 300 people watching this video.
Oh, goodness.
Right, around there. And so if you wanted to say something to this generation, so 7th and 8th graders, anywhere from 12 to 14 years old,
Yeah.
what would you want to tell them?
Ooh. Don't drink.
We tell them that all the time.
Yeah.
Actually, the big problem is vaping these days. Yeah, it's the cigarette thing, the electronic
Yeah.
cigarettes.
Try to appreciate what you have. I know sometimes it gets overwhelming at your age. There's just no way out, but there is. And you're going through school. Their education's the key to success. You can stumble through and suffer and not care, or you can put your shoulder down and say, "Yeah, I guess I better learn something." Whether it makes sense or you ever use it, I've never used trigonometry, but I saw it. I had to have it. But no, it's a challenge. You've got a challenge ahead of you, and the times are something like I've never seen. I'm only 78, and just the internal turmoil and the politicians hating each other is just something that's never happened before. So you're going to have some challenges that I won't face, and you just be strong and know America will pull through, and you can make a difference. So stay in school.
Excellent. Let's stop there just for a minute, and that's still looking. You just wanna
Okay,
explain your
all my-
medals? Yeah.
The ribbons and awards I've received, on top is the Master Aviator. When you graduate from flight school, you're given just the wings. After 1,500 hours and a certain amount of years, you can get the Senior Aviator, and after 5,000 hours, you become a Master Aviator. The bottom ribbon is the Army Parachute Badge. When you graduate from jump school after a month of torture, they give you the wings. If you get selected for Jump Master School, and you have 25 or 30, I can't remember actually, you get the Senior Parachutist. What I have now at 65 jumps, you become a Master Parachutist. The awards these are miniatures. The full awards, of course, is like you've seen all over. Legion of Merit when I retired, Distinguished Flying Cross, 2 Purple Heart for my injury. We got the Air Medal, and we got the Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Medal, Vietnamese, down here at the bottom one. And that's pretty much all the ribbons.
Okay. All right, Sandra, feel free to introduce yourself and take us through your service record.
Hello, my name is Sandra Gotani. I am from White River, from the community of 7 Mile in District 3. I joined the United States Marine Corps in May of 1991 through December of 2004. When I joined the military, it was still in the initial phase of Desert Storm. When I got out of boot camp in Parris Island, South Carolina, it was already war in the Gulf. So I never came back to White River. Instead, I went straight to my duty station at MCAS Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. From there, I stayed there for 2 weeks and went to MAG 24 as a search and rescue person. And from there, we went straight across to the Gulf with just 2 weeks out of boot camp. I stayed for over a year in the Gulf. I went up and down through the deserts at night with supplies, with bringing back prisoners. And for some reason, I was not afraid. My mother had done a ceremony for me, and an eagle feather came in the mail for me. I put that eagle feather around me and I wore it every day. As a Native American, an eagle feather is a powerful tool. It's a protector, a granter of life. So I knew I was going to come back. So I knew nothing was going to happen to me. I did come back. I went on leave, came back here. And then my next couple of years later, my next one, another deployment, was to Kuwait. We left here and we left Marine Corps Air Base and flew across to New York, and from there we boarded a C-130 cargo plane straight across and landed in Germany. And from there we went into Beirut City. That was different than Desert Storm. I seen a lot of things in Beirut City. And then my third one in 2001, my third overseas deployment, I went to Fallujah, Afghanistan. I went as a search and rescue again and as a logistics. And I did the same thing, back and forth of supplies, back and forth of prisoners of war, treated the sick and the wounded, went to search for our team members that were lost in the desert. We went through the oil fields and stayed there. To this day, I suffer asthma very badly. Because of that, I never got better. I suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome real bad as a mom. I have 3 daughters. I raised them all in the military from Seabag to Seabag. My daughters are all outspoken. And to this day, they're all out in the world, raising their own family, being successful people, successful women with good relationships in their lives, which is something I wanted for them. My ex-husband was a Marine too. So we hardly seen a family life. When I was home, he was deployed. When he came back, it was my turn to go. I've been all up and down the Orient. I went through the Rema fire. I've been to Malaysia. I've been to Singapore. I've been to Thailand, Japan, China, Indochina, India. I've been to Australia, Philippines. I've been to the Gaza Strip, Cairo, Egypt, Valley of the Pharaohs. I went through Bahrain, Pakistan, Afghanistan. I went through United Arab Emirates. I've been to so many countries being in the military. My whole 20s was in my military and the early part of my 30s in the military. I've been friends with Black, white, Mexican, Cubans, other tribes, anybody that could have my back, my six, was my friend. I learned to trust people. I learned to have faith in the other person because they expect that from me too. I have grown way beyond my years when I was in the military because they taught me discipline too. Discipline to stick to your rules and how to overcome the obstacles in your life, how to work and overcome and be successful. That's what the military taught me. I'm 100% disabled veteran, but I still have overcome a lot in my life. I am proud to serve the military. I'm proud to be a United States Marine Corps. And also, I was the first female for my tribe to enlist in the military. I was the first female Marine to make it through the boot camp. My boot camp was made up of 132 women of all races and ages up to 28. When we graduated, we only graduated 23 women out of 132 or 33. 80-90% fell. And only they say, the few, the proud, the Marines, the ones that graduate and make it are the few and the proud. And I'm proud of myself that I accomplished something in my life to this degree, because there's only a handful of women that come back from there. And I'm proud of myself today.
Nice, Sandra. I think we got it. Is there anything else? I don't think so. I think we got it. That was a very...
Hi, I'm Jim Slagenhot, resident of Lakeside for about a year. We moved from Yuma last October, and we're very happy to be here. Originally from Washington State, born and raised there from 1950 till 5 years ago. And so I was in the Navy in 1971 to 75, only 4 years, but a wonderful 4 years it was. Learned a lot of things and grew up a lot. I went to Washington State University in 1969 for a year and a half, and I realized that I better get a little more maturity. So I, after a .92 my first semester, I found it was best to go to class to actually attend. And so I had 2 more semesters to bring that up. And I after the 3rd semester, I enlisted. And I thought, what do I want to do? What branch do I want to go into? And I thought Dad was a merchant marine and Grandpa was a sailor. So I enlisted in the Navy. And I had many choices to make. And I thought, I don't want to carry a gun and kill people. So I said, I'll be a corpsman. Or like a medic. And so what I did is I went to boot camp in April of 71 and went to Corpsman A School in Balboa Naval Hospital in San Diego after boot camp. And then was transferred to Long Beach Naval Hospital for a year. And then I was assigned to the 3rd Marine Division as a corpsman for the Marines, and spent a year, maybe a year and a half in Camp Pendleton, California. Did mountain warfare training and everything. And yeah, I had to carry a gun, but that's okay. Last year I spent was on Okinawa, and I made so many friends and have so many wonderful experiences. I'd like to share for an hour, but we don't have the time, and it probably wouldn't be that fascinating to you. But I will tell you a couple little quick footnotes. The first experience in the hospital was with Dr. Siebritz, and he was a proctologist. He invented some ointment that you probably never heard of, but he's very famous from Poland, I think. And my last year on Okinawa, I was in division psychiatry. So I'd like to say I went from the bottom to the top in 4 years. But I was with the Marines, and we were out in the field a lot of the time, camping out, hiking, and interesting. I grew up a lot in 4 years and really enjoyed the experience. So it was an option for me, and I'm sure glad I did it. I'd do it again, especially since I wasn't mature enough to actually go to class. And anyway, it was fun. And that's really all I've got to say is enjoy. If you do that, enjoy it, make the most of it. I did. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Jim Burden. A lot of people know me by that name, but my official name is James H. Burden. I spent 27 years of service with the United States Army and National Guards, and about 19 years with the Air Force. Now that makes some sense. I guess that's 9 and 19. What does that make? Does that make 27? Or pretty close to that, okay.
19 Air Force and 8 Army, right?
8 Army, yes, okay. It's been a while. It's been 51 years since I was 21 years when I was drafted, so a little hard for me to remember some things.
Let's go straight to the first question.
Okay.
The students this year have been involved in Patriot Pen, and these are junior high kids, so they're anywhere from 12 to 14 years old, 7th and 8th graders. And the reason why the school does this event, because this is something they've done annually for years, is my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why they do it is they feel it's very important to make a connection between the next generation and those that have already sacrificed for the country that is providing them an education. So they've answered the question, how are you inspired by America? How would you answer that with your history and your service?
Well, I love my country deeply, and I served my country any way I possibly could. And I'm a patriot, as you can see my little wristband here. And I say if we want to live in a free, loving, and responsible country, you, this generation growing up, need to make a decision. Hey, where do I want to live? In a country that's free and loving and cares about one another? Or other countries that we know that don't care much about human life?
Excellent. Why don't you tell us what's the first service you joined and what year was that?
I was drafted into the United States Army in May of 1965. I lived in Chicago at the time, and that was a heck of a place to live back then, and I understand it's about 100 times worse now. But I was taken to Fort Knox, Kentucky, where I took my basic training and my AIT, which is Advanced Infantry Training, and that's where I graduated and was promoted into the military police group, in which it was the 140th Military Police Company at Fort Gordon. I'm sorry. Well, I went from Fort Knox to Fort Gordon to serve my military police time there for a while.
And you ended up going to Vietnam, correct?
Yes. I enjoyed the work at Fort Gordon as a military policeman, and the end half of 19, I'm starting to fade with the memories here. You can cut that if you want to. 1966, that's what I was trying to say, the last half of 1966, is right after my buddy was murdered at the gate down there at Fort Gordon. They renamed the gate after him, Bob McKenna. But a few days after that, or a week or so, they had me set up to go to Vietnam. I went to Vietnam. There was 5,000 of us in the battalion, 2 ships. I think they were merchant marine ships. I was on the USS Sultan, and I served some military police duty there. And it took about 17 days for us to get across the ocean to Vung Tau Harbor. So that was kind of a long trip. But anyway, I spent some time there, and first half of 67, my time, 2 years, was coming to an end, and they wrapped me up and shipped me back to New Jersey at Fort Dix.
So after Vietnam, I know you served in the reserves, the Army Reserves, for a number of years.
Yes, that's true. I got married in July of 1967, and that was kind of a rough trip also because I didn't get the job that I really wanted back. There was a couple of them, but the one I got, that was back for several weeks, they said, okay, we don't need you anymore, laid me off. So there's some tough times there, even though I was in the Army Reserves for a number of years. And then I became an offset printer, in which I enjoyed printing a lot. And I went from A.B. Dick's single sheet fed presses up to multicolor, 6 color forward and with the backer and all that stuff. And I enjoyed that much, and very much. But after about 4 years, I decided we needed to take a vacation, came to Arizona. 1973, I think we came here. 1974, I joined the Casa Grande Police Department. I was 30 at that time. And I spent a lot of my time on the street as a detective, patrol, and also I spent a lot of, almost half my career as a school resource officer.
When was it that you joined the Air Force? Because this is unique about you. You've served in 2 branches.
Yes. Well, when we moved to Arizona, I did spend some more time with the Army National Guard, one of the artillery units there, the ones that we played around with, the self-propelled howitzers, 105s, and made some trips to Fort Bliss, Texas and stuff like that. But I got a lot of time in there, and in 1984, one of my friends at the fire department, who we worked closely with, said, hey, you know what, I know a sergeant in Tucson at the 162nd Fighter Wing that they're looking for people with prior service. So I went down, met Sergeant Brown, got in 1984, and I spent 19 years with them there, being not in police work anymore or security police, but I said, let's try some public affairs. So I was in public affairs, working right next to the commander's office for 19 years. Very proud that I could do that. But I don't know, like I've said before, you know, time passes fast when you get up into the ages. I'll be 80 in about a month and a half now, and if I had 20 more years I could give, I'd give it to my country again, with no questions asked.
Wonderful. What else would you want to share with this generation, Jim?
Well, when I was a school resource officer, my goal was to try to share with them, if you don't like someone coming and punching you in the nose for no reason, causing you trouble, bullying you, calling every name they could, if you don't like that, then don't become that. Do your best not to be what you don't like. Love this country. The United States of America has formed a lot of good principles. And there are some people out there that are trying to change those good principles into something that's not so good. I ask you, stand up for what you believe. You want freedom, you want loving people, you want this country to be strong, to be able to defend itself against its enemies. Stand up, stand strong, and salute the flag. And remember your Pledge of Allegiance.
Wonderful. Is there anything else you feel like sharing today?
No, I just thank you for this opportunity to say a few words. There's a lot of things that happened in my life after the past 51 years. I'm just thankful. I didn't think I'd ever get asked to talk about anything about my country that would be nice and positive for you young folks. So, and for older folks too. A lot of people have to learn more about what's gone on in this country in the past. A lot of people don't have a clue what's going on in the past. The past wars, World War I, World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam was one of the worst wars, but no war is good. So let's try to work to keep the peace for our country. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jim.
Hi, my name is James Mark Burden. I was in the Army with the 2nd ID. I went in to the Army in 2016 in August, and I went to do basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia, and everything from there just skyrocketed into my very short career of 1 year in the military.
So let's go straight into the question, James. The kids are participating in Patriot Pen this year, and the question is, how are you inspired by America? How would you answer that? And remember that for the immediate purposes, you're talking to junior high kids, and you're also an alumni of this area, so you could definitely speak to that as well.
Yeah, I am a Blue Ridge graduate. I graduated in 2014. But for me, it's been it's my inspiration came from my dad being in the Air Force and Army and all that stuff, and I kind of got my inspiration from him to try to pursue that career, even though it didn't work out when I got injured.
How are you inspired by America, James?
Again, I was growing up with my dad being in the military, and being around the Air Force base my whole life. I just kind of, fighting for the right reasons and just loving each other the way we should be loved.
Good. Since you're from this area, let me share with you what one of the other interviewees said, which I really loved, and I included it. She said it was actually her son, one of the other veterans, her son served in Iraq, and she mentioned how her son wrote her back and said all these city boys that were in the military now actually couldn't handle the service over there, but all the kids that were from areas like this could, because they were used to doing outdoor stuff, and they were tougher. It's as simple as that. And
yeah.
So she actually gave the advice: get outside and stay tough. I mean, because I know you like out and stuff like that. So
yeah.
So how would you speak to that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I was a kid, I always played outside, and even because I'm originally from Casa Grande, Arizona, and growing up, that was more of a city than up here is. But yeah, no, I was always active, and I know the military's changed its standards a lot since I've been in, and even when I was in, the standards changed from being like this way and then changing things to be this way, and then now things are a lot different in the military than when I was in, and then when my dad was in, or any of my friends that were in, or even my brother-in-laws or anyone I know that was in. It's completely different now than it was back when we were in.
Okay. How would you say, how should kids be taking their schooling?
Oh, well,
You know, because
Yeah.
I mean, the military, yeah, you can join and go in as an E1 and do all that stuff, but
yeah, well, kids should really, kids should really be focusing on their education. And I'm not just saying that because I'm getting older now and, you know, it's kind of repeating what my parents told me. And now what I tell my kids is that schooling is important, especially if you do want to go in the military or for any kind of career. It's always good to have schooling background and education on your job field and what you want to try to go for in life. So education is really big.
and what else do you feel like saying personally? Like to these kids or to the community of Blue Ridge, because this will be going out on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, I would just say be you. Don't let anybody else change you or influence you to be something you're not. You know, there's a lot of influences out there, you know, people or things they see on YouTube or TikTok or anything like that. They could be a bad influence. So stay true to who you are. And that's what I had to do after I got out of the military, after all my injuries and everything that's happened to me. I had to stay true to myself, to who I was, and I didn't let the military or bad influences change me.
So that's one of the realities of military service, obviously, is potential for injury or death.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're willing to expound on that. If you're not, then
Yeah.
please don't. But
Yeah, no, it is a definite possibility. I mean, obviously, when you join the military, that's our country's, you know, protection. And from when I went in back in 2016. I was infantry mortar, so I fired the mortars all the time. So, and when I went in, I knew for a fact that I could be deployed at any second, even right after basic. They said I can get to my duty station and then, you know, bye-bye, you're going to Afghanistan or Kuwait, which didn't happen, which we were gearing up for it. So we were gearing up for a combative deployment. Yeah, and this was when ISIS was really bad. And yeah, we were gearing up for that for pretty much the whole time I was in. I guess they must have overtrained me because I got a traumatic brain injury fixing a Humvee for our first sergeant. And yeah, that was my first injury. And that was just working on a vehicle in the mortar pool where we kept all of our trucks and vehicles and whatnot. And then, but we did do a lot of OPFOR training. And one of the coolest things I got to do in the military, besides shoot all fun big guns and, you know, blow stuff up, was I got to help train the Green Berets, the Special Forces, how to use the mortar system. And so that was pretty cool. But, you know, we did a lot of training, so that's always in the back of your mind of death, of being killed or, you know, or killing somebody else. So that's always in the back of somebody's mind when you're in the military, especially in a time of war, or if, you know, things are bad and they don't really seem like getting better. It's always in the back of your mind that it is a possibility. Training and boots on ground. And for me, I did have a lot of those experiences, especially when we were firing the mortar, and you have the videos of that. But after those videos were taken, we were still training with, and I was dropping the mortars, and I was the one who dropped the mortars in the tube. And one of the times, one of the mortars slipped out of my hands while I was above it, and it slipped out of my hands and it went off, and it came right past my hands and my head and everything. So it's, yeah, especially when you're dealing in explosives or, you know, high stress, you know, job fields, and even in training, it could you know, stuff can happen where you can get hurt or even possibly die.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because the enthusiasm that America has for its military is very high, and I don't want, you know, that shouldn't be diminished, but reasonable expectations, right? You're going in to learn how to blow stuff up, usually.
Yeah. I mean, and I will say, like, I don't have any hatred towards the military. There's obviously some things that I wish that could change, but I will say I also did have a lot of fun as well when I was in, even with the real bad hardships. I still had lots of fun. I got to do things that no other civilian would ever get to do. They only get to see in movies, you know, or at documentaries. But I was actually out there, you know, doing that stuff for real, like shooting the mortars and shooting rocket launchers and 50 caliber machine guns. And I was a 240 machine gunner for my squad. So I didn't only you know, use the mortar. Well, I was outside of the hatch. You have a picture of that too, of me out of the hatch. You know, and I have the 240 up there, the machine gun, and yeah. So there's a lot of cool things, especially using night vision. that was really cool too. And there's a lot of good benefits that come out of being in the military. You know, some good, some bad. You know, just like in any kind of life or career, there's good and bad that comes out of it.
What would you say some of the benefits are?
Benefits is well, discipline for one, especially in basic. They kind of even went back a little bit on the discipline part in basic training now, but it's still teamwork, discipline, you know, getting in shape, obviously, and just having integrity, and that's a big one, having integrity.
On standby. Twin ready. Twin ready. Hang it. Fire. Oh, good stuff. Go. Hang it. Charge 2. Hang it. Charge 2. Fire. Hang it! Fire! Hang it! Fire! Round complete!
Okay, go ahead. All right, my family comes from Spain. 1560, Queen Isabella sent my grandfather to be the second governor of all this territory in the Southwest. He was the second governor, and he is famous for, if you go to the Museum of Arts in Santa Fe, they have a statue of my grandfather on a horse with his personal surveyor that he ordered from Spain. This surveyor is watching as my grandfather points out where he wants the streets of now Santa Fe. He is the architect of it, and he did a very good job with the native tribes and everything. And in the 60s, I heard that we were still the third largest family in the United States because of my grandfather. I don't know what we are anymore. But then my father and mother are from Arizona. My father was born in McNairy, Arizona, and my mother was born in Holbrook, Arizona. And we've always been up here in the White Mountains, Flagstaff, all the way down to Winslow, Holbrook, you name it. My family is everywhere in this state and all the neighboring states. My uncle is a World War II vet. He lived here. I lived with him for about 4 months before he passed away. He was maybe you didn't know about how many waves went in World War II. There wasn't just one big wave of American soldiers attacking the Germans in Normandy. There was 7 waves. My uncle and his cousin, he was only 15. His cousin was 17, and they were on the second wave that went into Normandy. They fought all the way through World War II. My uncle's cousin, he had enough points to go back home. My uncle did not. So they sent him to be an MP at the Nuremberg trials. If you ever see the old video films of the sergeants in the white hats and the white gloves that escort all the German generals and everything, there were hundreds of those generals. And there were hundreds of sergeants that were the personal assistants to all those generals. Whenever they left their cell, they were always escorted by that one sergeant, and my uncle was one of those sergeants, and I see him every time. I see him every time in the old documentaries in the Nuremberg trials. My dad was in the Korean War. He dropped out of high school to join, and he went to a year in Korea, and he was a half-track driver. That means it had tires in the front and tracks in the back and a big 50 cal machine gun, and he used to drive that thing. And he told me he would go from ammo position to artillery position, delivering ammo. And he said he had to drive like the Dickens because they would always try and shoot at him, send artillery and try to hit him. They never got him. But long story short, he made it back, went back to Snowflake High School, and several months later, they made a mistake and they drafted him again, but he was only in the military for 8 months. I joined the military in 73, November of 73, right before Thanksgiving. And then the sergeant that signed me up asked me if I wanted to come in delayed entry so I could be at the holidays, the Thanksgiving and the Christmas with my family. And I told him yes. So I actually went in at 74, February 11th of 74. And then you have 2 months of basic and 2 months of AIT. And from there, they held me back another 2 weeks to go to TOW Missile School. TOW is an acronym for Tube Launched Optically Sighted Wire Command Guided Missile. That's what a TOW missile is. It weighs 54 pounds and it's 51 inches long. It can shoot farther than any tank. Back then it could. I don't know about the new tanks nowadays, but back then it could fire up to about 3 miles. We were always sent with the tankers. Each section, in a section, there's 2 tow vehicles, and we were always with them. And that's what I did for most of my 20 years. I did 2 tours in Germany, 3 tours in Korea, 2 tours at Fort Carson. No, 1 tour at Fort Carson, 2 tours at Fort Lewis, Washington, 2 tours at Fort Stewart, Georgia, and 1 tour at Fort Hunter Liggett in California. and then I was in the Guard. I had a break in '76. I got out, but I went straight into the National Guard in Tempe, Arizona. I was with the 1st and the 180th Field Artillery, and I didn't know anything about artillery, just an open slot where they put me. So they made me the Forward Observer Lieutenant's driver. All I did was drive, and I'd take them up to Florence, where we would pick up our vehicles and load them, and then we'd go to Fort Huachuca, where we would fire them. 78, I think it was September of '78, I came back in. It was 18 months when I got out. That's how long I was out, and then I went straight back in, because I still really missed the military. I had come home, and I saw all my friends doing the same darn thing. They were in the same cycle, going around in circle, and they had no goals. And I had already been to another country, and it opened my eyes. And I wanted my eyes opened again. So I joined the Army again in '78, and that's when I went to Korea. And in Korea, I was attached to the 1st and the 9th Infantry Combat Support Company, Weapons Platoon. And once a year, all the infantry battalions in Korea, we were just happened to station on the DMZ, but every infantry battalion in Korea, and there's quite a few of them, have to rotate into the DMZ patrols. That's full combat patrols. We take everything with us, machine guns. We have artillery available, fully loaded grenades. And we'd go in at about 1 or 2 in the morning, and the vehicles, there's nothing out there, nothing. You can't even hear a cricket chirp out there. And it just amazing, the silence, and how we broke that silence, coming in with deuce and a halves and Jeeps. And then we got off them vehicles immediately while we're inside the DMZ. Once we're off, we set up a perimeter, and the vehicles would turn around, and we'd stay there till we'd patrol. And we got followed every time. We did this for 30 days, and we were always followed by the North Korean Special Forces. Now, they had orders just to piss us off, or they had orders to fire at us. And they were so bold. They would be like 500 feet away from our perimeter, and they would light up a cigarette to let us know that they are there, that they are following us.
You need to take a break. Let's take a break. All right, Russ. Let's take a break.
All right, sorry about that. 3 tours that I was in Korea, I lost some good friends. Mainly because of the DMZ patrols. But I was a platoon sergeant over there. I started out as just a private like everybody else. I worked my way on up to loader, to gunner, to squad leader, and then to section sergeant, and then to infantry platoon leader of a tow section, or tow platoon. I did, like I said, I did 3 tours over there. The first tour over there was a blast. I was so young. But my second tour, I was married. I had a baby coming. And when I got back from Korea, it's kind of funny. my newborn little baby, who was about 6 months, was being held by the hand of my wife, and the baby started running away from me. And I says, "What's wrong with her, with him?" And she says, "He's afraid of the postman." So evidently he thought I was the postman because I was in uniform. Made a lot of good friends. We're lifelong friends. I'm not a big media person. I don't get on Facebook or any of that stuff. I've never been on it. But I know I got my friends still out there everywhere. Just hard not to make good friends. Made them in Germany when I first went over there. That was a crazy place. Back in the 70s, early 70s. The culture over there, even the homes and the streets and people on the Autobahn doing 100 miles an hour. I love their beer. You could order pizza and get a case of beer with it. I don't know if I should be telling them that.
Well, that's okay. We can always cut it out.
Okay.
If the principal doesn't want us talking about beer, maybe we'll cut that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, then I better not tell the next one then.
Well, you tell whatever you want, because we can always.
Okay.
This is digital. We can do whatever we want with it.
Yeah. Well, the German girls were beautiful. They were beautiful. They were always very close. Over there, it's a whole different culture. They were very close to each other. They always had their arms around each other. They were always dancing with each other. Even the men had their arms around each other. Best friends, good friends. That was their culture over there in the United States. You know, they might not think it's right over there or something like that, you know.
And just reintroduce yourself.
Oh, okay.
And then just say which branch of the service you were in and how many years total.
Okay, yeah, and I want to let them know that I'm part of the VFW and I've been a member there and an officer and everything over there.
That would be great.
Okay. You said just wrap it up, start with my,
Well, no, but just kind of like it's like another take. So now just
okay.
like you're starting over. Introduce yourself.
Oh, okay.
Which branch? How many
Okay.
years service? And then you can talk about VFW as well.
Okay, my name is Kenneth Ray Dominguez. I was born June 30th, 1954, to Raymond and Vivian Dominguez, who lived in Holbrook. But I was born at a newer hospital in Phoenix, and then went back to Holbrook, where me and my older sister were born in Phoenix, but we lived in Holbrook. And that's where, until 1962, when my dad got on with Arizona Republic, he moved his family over there. And I grew up in Phoenix. And I went to Isaac Junior High in Phoenix. And I went to West Phoenix High School, the Thunderbirds, in Phoenix at 19th Avenue and Thomas. And I graduated from there. And at one time, my little sister was a freshman. My little brother was a sophomore. I was a junior. My big sister, was a senior. They used to get us mixed up all the time. When it came time for me to graduate, they said I only had 19 and a half credits. Well, they got me mixed up with my brother, so I didn't get my graduation walk-on board. So I had to go get a half a credit in summer school. So I get the half a credit, and they send it in, and they say it'll be a month before I'll get my diploma. Well, it was about 3 months later, my dad finally got upset, and school wasn't in. It was during the summertime. He took me up there, and he wanted to know where my diploma was. The assistant principal came out and said he would help. Well, he looked into it, and they found out that they got me and my brother mixed up, that he's the one that had flunked a course, and I did not. So I graduated with my diploma, and that's always been kind of a stickler with me that I didn't get to graduate up on stage with my class. But I joined the military in February 74, and I stayed in for 20 years in the infantry. In my MOS, everybody in the military has an MOS. That's the acronym for Military Occupation Specialty. And they got a book about that thick of every job that you can apply for in the military. If you got the points for it or the test numbers for it. They offered me a cook or infantry. I decided to go infantry. So like I said, I retired in September 23rd on my birthday, on my wife's birthday, 1995. I retired from the city of Peoria on an early retirement package. I moved to Show Low. I went through a divorce and I went to Show Low, and I lived up here. I've been up here since, I've been up here my whole life, but I've been up here since 2009 permanently. I met my wife at the Veterans of Foreign War Veterans, and we got married about 5 years ago. And I've been an officer with the VFW. I've been a sergeant. I was an officer. The sergeant position is responsible for all the medical equipment that we donate, all medical reports that have to go up to state. You have to be on call for when anybody needs any medical equipment. You have to put it all in a book that shows which has gone out, which has come back, and how, an inventory of how much you have. I had to report once a month at our monthly meetings. And then I moved up to Senior Vice Commander. Senior Vice Commander is the commander of the VFW's right hand. I did so many funerals, memorials, and ceremonies. Whenever he couldn't do it, or he'd just ask me, we would do maybe about 30 sometimes in 6 months or something like that. And that was one of the things that I was responsible when I was in the military at Fort Lewis. I did that for 6 years. I don't know why they picked me. I was a sergeant, but I buried a lot of veterans. And that was my secondary job, besides being an infantry platoon sergeant. And I was also the battalion re-enlistment NCO and a platoon sergeant. And whenever there was a funeral, I was responsible for conducting it and presenting the flag. It's a big ceremony, and we buried everyone. It wasn't only Army. Could be Coast Guard. We'd bury the wives. We buried a lot of people, and we're still burying a lot of veterans. That's why I joined the VFW. I was a senior vice commander for 3 years. They really wanted me to take over as commander, but after I saw what the commander was responsible for, he had to go to city council meetings, he had to go to Veterans Court in Holbrook, all the responsibilities to state and everything. I'm just not ready for it. So I never went. But I was personally asked, and you have to be personally asked, to be a member, an inner society of the VFW, which is called the Cooties. I know it sounds funny, but my position in the Cooties is the pill pusher, which is the surgeon position again. So that's where I am right now. I'm no longer an officer with the VFW, but I am an officer with the Cooties. I volunteer so much. You name it. Right now, I'm responsible for the parking lot. We would like to build up. I'm putting together a committee to get our parking lot repaired, overlaid, and restriped. It's in terrible condition. Nobody knows where to park in there. Yeah. There's other committees in there. There's one for the roof. There's a painting of the outside. We volunteer for everything and anything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran. We will do something for you. If you need a wheelchair, if you need a ride to the valley, we always find somebody that will do it for you or something like that. That's what the veterans are all about. Well, that's all I got to say. Thank you for listening.
That's really good. Stop there for a second.
Okay. You know, I just want to say that before I joined the military, I had no goals. I was in a bad place, very bad place. That was during the late 60s, early 70s. And when I joined the military, that was a big step for me. I was afraid. I was scared. And plus, when I went to basic, they were still training you to go to Vietnam. And they were pretty rough in there. I watched them beat up a lot of guys. You didn't have to even look at them. They'd just grab you, the drill sergeants. They'd throw you around, they'd step on you. One broke my finger because I wasn't low crawling in the mud fast enough. But you know what? After you gain your confidence, and it doesn't matter, you know, what I'm trying to do is push the services, you know. It doesn't matter if you go into the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines. It doesn't matter what you do. The Coast Guard, the National Guard. Do something for your country. That's what you got to stand up for, is your country. It's very special to me. I joined. I knew I could have been killed very easily being in the infantry and all the conflicts that I've been through. But I wouldn't change a darn thing. I'm very proud. I'm very proud of my military experience, especially the infantry. It really made a man out of me. Made a man out of my brother. Made a man out of my dad was a man. Made men out of my sons. They both went to Afghanistan, and they both went to Iraq. And they came back different. In fact, they came back buff. I mean, they were muscled. I couldn't believe my youngest son, man. He walked by me and I just looked at him. I go, damn, that boy's got muscles on him now. He was focused. You know, he enjoyed doing what he was doing. And I guess he got over the initial feeling of what he was actually doing there, you know, in Iraq or Afghanistan. Both my boys, they were both infantry. One was mortars. The other one was an infantry soldier carrying a SAW automatic rifle. It's a machine gun. But if it's not for you, hey, I've had guys come in that didn't last 24 hours, and I could tell. I told this one guy, I says, if you're going to leave your key to your wall locker and your ID. That's all I asked him. And he did it. Never saw him again. And then I'd seen guys with 18 years in that just couldn't take it no more. And I begged him. He was my best friend. He was a sergeant. But just like me, I got the worst ulcer. My stomach was in knots my last few years in the military. I was so stressed out. But, be proud of whatever you do. Whether it's the military or you work it for the city or something. That's what I did. I was a street sweeper. I was an asphalt paver. I did that for 17 years, and I'm proud of it. Made good money doing that too, But I was looking, what the military teaches you is to look past what you're doing now and helps you focus on a career. That's what I pushed with my boys. Both my boys started out when they got out. They came to me and they asked me, would you co-sign? We want to go to DeVry Institute of Technology. I didn't even hesitate. I told you bring me the paperwork. They came back 2 weeks later and they said, Dad, you don't have to sign. We joined the Army. And I says, I hope you didn't join the infantry. Both of them joined the infantry. Well, I knew that they were going to do it because when I was in the military and I was out in the field, we'd have family day. And we'd bring our families out to where we're training. They'd get to see us fire the weapons, fire the missiles. So they were pretty used to being around the infantry and everything. More power to them. Both of them are out. One completed DeVry, and then he went on to a new major. He's doing a environmental something. I don't know. It's a degree, and he says he's going to move to Oregon, of all states, Oregon. My other boy, he retired at 37. I told you he's very good with computers. He was the IP manager for Desert School District, and he made a lot of money. He invested a lot of money. He sold his house, made double the money, retired, and moved to Alaska, bought 121 acres. Now he's over there with the bulldozer, his dog, and his brand new truck, trying to build roads so he can build a road to his house that he's going to build over there. He's still single. Both my boys are still single. And I want a grandbaby so darn bad. Anyway, again, my name's Kenneth Ray Dominguez, and I'm very proud to have met you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.